Well, I hate to say anything about Amos chapter 4. And the reason I do, he calls the women of Israel fat cows of Bashan. Boy, that'll really get you excited. Boy, that make you want to go to that preacher's church. Fat cows of Bashan. I would never do that. Number one, I'm not stupid enough to do it. I'm not smart enough to do it, and I don't have that much power and everything. I just wouldn't do it. But he's not talking about their physical presence. He's not talking about how much they weigh. What he is basically saying, you are offering yourself upon the altars of paganism. You're serving Satan. You're serving demons. Anytime you've got these demonstrations or you get involved in all these worldly activities, I know people right now who will do more to make sure that they watch a program on television or talk more about Harry and Meghan than they do about Jesus Christ. And then they claim to be Christians. Listen, Harry is not our God. Meghan did not save us. Biden will not deliver us. In fact, he got us into this mess. There is no Moses. There's only Jesus Christ, and he's the only one that can deliver you. So right there, he says in chapter 4, you fat cows of Bashan, starting with verse 6, and it just goes on and on and on. He says, all these judgments, this is what's happened, and it's judgment against God. It would be like me saying the California drought was a judgment against by God. The earthquakes was a judgment of God. All of these things are designed to make sure that you come back to God. Now, I'm not going to say all that. I don't have it in me to do that, because those people in Mississippi, when that tornado come through, they're not any worse than me. You know, if I got what I deserved, I would end up dying right now. I would have never lived. But God chose us, and God chose us to relate to us, and we will never, ever be happy or satisfied until we have peace with Jesus Christ. I remember when we were building our first sanctuary at Hickory Grove Baptist Church. I had a contractor there. He was the head of the contracting crew, and his name was Pete. And Pete, he was a born again preacher, a Christian, and he loved the Lord. And so a lot of times I'd go over in the trailer and we'd just talk about the Lord. And so one day he told me, he said, you know what? The best preacher I ever had was the worst preacher I ever had. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, we got a new preacher in our church, and he was just awful. Said he couldn't preach, and he started canceling all of our programs, and he started doing, and he just went on and on and on and on and on. And he said, I saw a lot of people leaving the church and going elsewhere, but I decided to stick in there. And so what I started doing is, rather than enjoying what I'd done with my last preacher, just enjoying everything that was going on, I decided I would pray for my pastor. And he said, you know what ended up happening? I ended up getting closer to God. It didn't help him any, but I ended up getting closer to God. So he forced me to start feeding myself. You know, what most of you are right now doing, you are suffering under the leadership of a false prophet. Or you're watching television and you're suffering under the leadership of a false prophet, or maybe even the false prophet. There are pastors in Charlotte, North Carolina, that I'm convinced believe that they are the prophet of Satan. But what can you do? Well, to start with, you need to start praying. You need to make sure you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, because you will never be satisfied with that. You have to feed yourself. If I had a child and that child was born and we fed that child and we clothed that child, but that child is 25 years old and we're still having to feed them and change their diapers, then there's something wrong going on there that's not right, because we expect people to mature and get to the point where they can change their own clothes and cook their own meals and feed their own self. And I know some of you have 40-year-olds that can't do that, but you know what I'm talking about. So God expects us to come to him as mature human beings and grow up and take personal accountability for our spiritual development and come to Jesus right now. So as a result of that, chapter 4, verse 1, I'm not going to call anybody a fat cow of Bashan, but I am going to say we are responsible for our own spiritual well-being. So right now, let's just get ready and serve the Lord. Thank you so much. God bless you.